you know, go back to that particular pick, because it is something that Beishong is exceptionally powerful on and has played plenty in his career.
Yeah, he's played it in the past when Volibear was definitely more meta, but it would fit into some of the archetype of trying to upset EDG's early game. Now, if you're going to play a game, though, from EDG, which is not about that early game, and it's more about setting up for the puppy, protect the puppy comps, we're always about Uzi, and he has the Yuumi, and he has a front line already, and he has one of the premier scaling carries on the patch. However, I do like this counter pick here from Wen. Of course, the K'Sante could go into that mid lane, but the Gangplank will always be able to slow down and do some damage to Aphelios wherever he stands in the team fight when it comes to it.
We'll see where they're able to go with this one here, but of course the Vladimir is actually going to be banned away by IG. I'm not quite sure about that one there. They're obviously assuming that the K'Sante is going into FoFo's hands, which in fairness they have flexed it.
Both of these top laners are Vladimir players, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. They are Vladimir players. Well, I mean, All has played it a couple of times. I definitely think in terms of EDG's famous Vladimir players, it would be Flandre over anybody else. But
he's still in the house, but he's still in the EDG house, he just hangs out there.
The call is coming from inside the house. just Ala looking around at the walls. But we'll see where they want to try and bring the last few of these picks now, because you've got the Gangplank already locked in here for IG. So they're going to say, look, we're taking an AoE, we're taking something that can slow down this Aphelios so he can't really kind of, you know, move forward. And all it takes is one good barrel.
It does. You do need to, however, survive to the point where you are useful. Gangplank has of course, benefited a lot from some of the item changes. There are a couple of different item builds. You can go towards something like Astus Reaver into your Navori Quick Blades. You can also go for the Triforce builds, because Triforce is just such a strong item right now. IG not going to have themselves the ability to play the IG Rakan skin. Of course, the players responsible for that, Valad, no longer on the roster, long gone, but IG not going to get their hands on that one. They do need to get some extra initiation somewhere. Taking the Maokai away, very important. I think that would have been a very powerful pick for EDG in their own right. Jiejie, a great player of that Maokai, and it would have bought space for the Aphelios. So good takeaway.
Yeah, and it really works out for the side of IG in terms of, you know, you got the K'Sante, which we want to try and flex between top and mid. But having the Maokai kind of covers you off, then you kind of say, look, we can take whatever we want into that top side. Maybe go for an AP. Maybe you want to go for a Rumble or something like that into the top lane if you really felt like you could punish this Gangplank. But the Maokai does go up to the side of IG, which means EDG respond with Jiejie picking up the Sejuani. So picking up a couple of different things that could just kind of have a decent time up against the Gangplank and the Annie, just try and slow them down as best they can. And if they honestly lock in this Fiora, they are going to be fully kind of investing in the AD side of their team comp and kind of saying, look, a lot of our late game damage is going to have to come from either the split push Fiora on a 1v1 or just straight up the Uzi Aphelios, try to see how much he can do. And yeah, Uzi on the Aphelios is going to be kind of the sole damage source right now for EDG as we get later on to the game.
Early Gangplank picks do risk this sort of answer. EDG, they flex the K'Sante to that mid lane. Fiora can have huge kill pressure versus the Gangplank in topside. So now it is not just about these hyperscaling AD carries. There are carries elsewhere on the map which can take over in a split push sense and in a team fight sense. We're going to go back to that Nautilus. Nautilus has forever been a Yuumi answer. Get that hard engage down up level 1, level 2. Try and get something done in that laning phase. So no Enchanter for the side of IG. Enchanter in that Yuumi for the side of EDG. Chips are down. Some strong lanes across the board on both sides. This can flip very hard, very early across the map.
Absolutely, and I'm going to give you a fun little stat now, Nymaera.
Yeah.
This is going to be Uzi's first ever game on the Aphelios. Has never played it before, was not playing while it was meta at the time, or maybe it was and it was just banned away. Absolutely else. So this is going to be a first time Aphelios for Uzi on stage. And it's exciting to see, you know, is 200 years plus Uzi enough to break the game? That is my question. And
you know what? Does he play the EDG skin? Does he play EDG Aphelios in his first ever Aphelios game?
That'd be kind of hype. That would be kind of hype.
Analysis out the window. This, like, particularly in a lot of like the Chinese community, a lot of symbolism is very, very powerful, right? And that is just such a battle cry saying, I'm here, I'm on a new team. Old rivals may they be, with them now. If he picks up that skin, I think that's very important and a symbolic gesture from Uzi.
Maybe. Look, I'm not a fan of talking about skin lines in the game. I feel like there's always something more interesting to talk about than cosmetics, but we'll have to wait and see as it comes into it. But we are about to jump onto the Rift for game number 1 of this best of 3. It's the return of the king, but this time under a different banner. EDG Uzi taking to the stage over a very much changed IG. 2 titans of the league, very much different to who they were when they won their world championships. Let's see how they both fare here on the Rift.
On we go. Uzi back on the stage. IG, his opponent, first off. It is a battle between 2 previous World Championship title holders from the LPL. Back onto the map as we go, though. No interesting level 1s as it stands right now. Just got Meiko standing into that tri-brush, wondering if Wink on the Nautilus was planning some level 1 shenanigans.
No one wants to go and flip the game too early. Like I said, it's if you go for something aggressive early and it goes wrong, it goes very wrong very quickly. And you can see just how respectful this bot lane of EDG is going to be towards the IG bot side. They've got themselves a cleanse, an exhaust, a heal, so many things that can go very wrong to you, so you want to make sure you're covered in all angles of that, and of course we're going to keep a very clear eye on that. But let's be real, level 1 is the only real time we're going to be seeing any kind of, you know, movement here from the bot side with Wink on the Nautilus. So outside of that, we are going to be looking around the map, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on Jiejie. This Sejuani can have a very powerful impact early on, especially when you have got 2 melee solo laners.
Yeah, exactly. This is something which the LPL really prioritized in spring. Having the melee solo laners allows you to play through topside in a more lethal manner than you would do in what is otherwise a bot side centric meta. We talk about bot lane so much, but Sejuani can unlock top side of the map very, very powerfully. Sejuani's changed a lot as a champion. She's had a lot of nerfs since spring, but still, point of power that EDG can play around. On the other side of the matchup, though, the Maokai, Bishang, he's been in the LPL before. Hook lands, he does take a turret shot.
Let's take a turret shot, but I got the shields to make sure he didn't take too much damage back. I will say on taking a not so favorable trade off the backside of that. And again, like I said, level 1 is kind of the limit of when we see any real kind of 2v2 action. And we go back in towards this top side, and we're back into the jungle on the bot side to see where these 2 junglers are going to go for. And already we're seeing Jiejie, after a full clear on bot side, looking to see if he can punish Gwen here, the newest member of IG. YSKM kind of goes off to do his Asian Games duty, so it'll be difficult to make this one work. He's got a barrel just snuck in behind the turret, which means he could clear the wave, or at least burn it down fairly quickly. And it's always difficult to know if you can or cannot dive a gangplank. With that orange to cleanse CC, it's a risk regardless of how low he is.
There's a chance if they could get the level 3 to level 2 dive off, that could work. Of course, burst damage from Sejuani with melee solo laners very, very high in the early game, which again keys into what we're talking about, Sejuani unlocking topside options earlier into the game. So, we do have Wink on the roam now as well. Has recalled, however, FoFo seems to be wise to this. It's hanging towards the top side of the lane in mid lane, you can see it on the minimap. So, no options here from IG, and it looks like the game just slowing down a little bit. I think this does favor EDG on the whole, particularly because, again, you have the Yuumi, which wants to reach at least an even laning phase, get a couple of levels under the belt. Same really with these melee solo laners. Sometimes they can get caught out a little early at the early levels because, of course, they have to stand closer to the minions to get them to farm.
We'll see where both teams want to go for it. Generally speaking, the first 5-6 minutes, honestly 7-8, are usually nothing really to be writing home about, as we got Ala coming out with the Fiora, just putting in huge punishment now onto Wen. And this is the thing, the Gangplank is strong, but he not strong until he gets about 2 or 3 items. That's when you start to be scared of the Gangplank, and he's already starting to struggle in this lane matchup. And I will be honest and say that the Fiora is built for this. This is her entire kit to kind of set yourself up and, you know, bully off into the lane. So if you just survive here as the Gangplank, I think you're doing an all right job.
I mean, Gangplank used to be much more of a lane bully. Does feel like Gangplank is still one of the most execution-heavy champions in the game, especially laning fails. Feels like you can just win or lose any given lane matchup depending on micro-positioning, where you are on your minions, how you're playing around your Q and passive cooldown. When teleports back to lane, significant farm disadvantage, as you were saying. Wen's first game on the LPL stage, came in from that LGL as a hot prospect with multiple champions under his belt. The Gangplank, it's a pretty bold pick. We don't see it that often. We'll have to get value out of it later, though, because the early laning phase not going his way.
And we're starting to see with those extra few levels getting into the Yuumi and the Aphelios, they are starting to just be able to kind of, you know, hold their own a little bit as well. We did see a cheeky back come out from the IG bot side so they can get a cull into On's back pocket while he scales up. And gets that item going for himself, or he gets his first item going, I should say. As we see now, good Scryer's Bloom catches out Jiejie on the rotation, so there's not really going to be much gank pressure, really, you would imagine, as On and Wink just keep themselves safe and go, yeah, look, we know that you're around here, Jiejie. We're not going to be looking for anything crazy. But Cryin has just hit level 6, as has FoFo. Not a lot of mana here for either of these mid laners. Cryin is kind of in no man's land. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to get out of this one alive. He's probably going to have to flash, and yet full respect needed to be given over there to the EDG jungler. I think Cryin just got a little bit hypey, thinking he maybe had an opportunity to take out FoFo with the ult.
Yeah, Cryin returns with the first strike proc onto FoFo, gets some damage done there, but flash down on the Annie, that's going to be a dangerous prospect for IG's mid laner. That could be a return gank angle. Jiejie doesn't have level 6 yet. Very, very powerful when that comes back. So we're getting to the point where first objectives getting onto the board. With bot lane push, EDG can at least ward out some of this bot side river, which they've done. I don't think they'll feel bold enough to start up a dragon, particularly with Beishang heading towards the spot side as well. If this dragon fight does get delayed, sometimes we can see some interesting map movements between the dragon not being taken very early and then the herald comes into play as well. Keep an eye on that to see how these teams split the map. They haven't been that eager to fight each other just yet.
Not eager just yet, as you mentioned, but level 6s start to come around, and Allah's starting to feel the power of this leveled up Q. You're starting to get a couple more points.
Oh no, he's
there.
full build, he has a Sheen!
Yeah. Oh, wait, that's me!
Oh no!
But again, it is kind of the way the Gangplank lane goes. He just starts to poke you out with those parlays and see if Allah can kind of do anything. I will say Allah didn't have a reset just yet. Finally, will end up kind of putting himself back up on top of this lane. And so far, so good for IG. They haven't let anything go crazy against them for the moment. But level 6 is kind of being hit across the board. We should see maybe a ganker or two, or a fight or two, potentially around this dragon now.
And of course, one of the huge things which we have to take into account with that is one of these top laners has a global. So despite that laning phase, we're at level 6 where really need to see how EDG take that into account. The Gangplank ult is a significant amount of CC and damage early into the game. It's a long cooldown, but the first ult of the game could very much tell the tale of how early game will end and mid game begins.
I'll wait to see where these two teams want to start fighting off. Where do you want to see them kind of go for this right now? Because we're both seeing them being very, very respectful. Jiejie kind of hovering around this bot side to make sure that Uzi has a decent time of getting back to his support. But where do you expect these two teams to find the most success if they were to look for a big fight?
I think really EDG would love to force Wen to blow his own ult defensively. I think that's the first stage. Maybe you can look towards Wen, stop him from putting that first ult of the game somewhere else onto the map and forcing Uzi into an awkward position. IG, I think anywhere but top lane is probably the answer and recompense for that. And as it stands, bot side jungle, again, they will have the global ultimate to bring to this.
Yeah, no TP either for either of these top laners. This will be 4v4 or 4.5v4. Smite comes down, Jiejie gets that. They throw out the Glacial Prison. It only lands onto Wink. They're going to try and turn this one back around. Good CC buffering, though, by FoFo means that he is unstoppable and he walks himself away. So, an ult from an ult in the junglers, and that honestly means that we're probably not going to see any fighting for the next at least another minute before those cooldowns come back.
That's a bit awkward. IG felt like maybe they had an angle, choke point set up. There are a lot of flashes available from EDG. I don't think a kill would have likely come down there. Then maybe you could have forced out some flashes from Uzi, FoFo, and the like. Not able to do so, though. Mazel tanked up by FoFo, who, of course, got down there nice and early to that play. Has himself the Merc Treads as well. Cassante is a champion that can get priority fairly easily with just base damages. IG, they're planning to go something bot side, though. Here's the ult.
There's the ult coming down. The lightning crash does come in. There is the cannon barrage that you talked about, but it is a Yuumi on the back of this Aphelios, which means all summoners blown, but despite everything being thrown at him, he survives. And that means that Rift Herald goes over to the side of EDG.
IG, you merely adopted the 3-4 person gank bot. I was born in it, molded by it, and I didn't see the free laning phase until I was already a man. Uzi gets away with that, does blow all the defensive summoners, and of course has to back away from this turret. But still, you've got rid of that gangplank ult, you haven't died, you're still alive. I still think this is marginally a win for EDG, given that ultimate, as we said, is so important for IG.
So important, and you can see straight away Allah was kind of saying, look, you don't have the cannon barrage. I can be a lot more aggressive coming into this one. Still has the grand challenge to throw down if he really does feel like he can get something there, but Wen does get himself back into his lane with a teleport after picking himself up in Essence Reavers. So very, very powerful here for the Gangplank. And this is the thing, the longer this game goes, the more you start to think it's a Zeri, it's an Annie, it's a Gangplank. These are a lot of massive damage threats that it's something that I like to call, you know, the kind of the unseen threat is the deadliest kind of setup, where it's like you haven't fought against something for so long that you don't know how much damage it actually does, and then you get so surprised
like
when a Tibbers and Incinerate just literally takes your entire health bar.
So I'm sure those of you with scientific backgrounds out there have heard of stuff like the Krebs cycle before, a couple of these scientific processes. In League of Legends, we have the Evelyn cycle. I like to call it that because everyone forgets about Evelyn up until you realize, hang on, I've been one-shot by someone that's invisible. And then you start figuring out how to play around them again. It's exactly the same with these kinds of champions. We have stuff like the Gangplank, Cannon Barrage, and the Annie, which has of course been meta for a little while. The unexpected factor has a lot of value when you don't expect it. You're absolutely right. But given that a number of these champions have been seen a fair amount around the Rift, EDG should be more than practice against them. Well, no, doing pretty well after the early laning phase. That Gangplank will be a factor.
Well, Cannon Barrage still on cooldown, but IG feel emboldened to maybe go for another 4v4 fight if they can. Again, still no summoners on the EDG bot side, which means they know that there's just not really much contest to really come out. Dragon will reset. They are still kind of pushing them in. Yeah, a bit of a scared Yuumi too. As FoFo and Jiejie starting to move themselves in. There's a Glacial Prison coming down onto Wink though. They're going to drop down the ultimate to try and catch out Uzi. There's going to be the final chapter to see if they can just disengage a little bit. FoFo taking out the Annie and almost, yes, getting a flash over and getting the first blood. That is 11, nearly 12 minutes before we got it. But EDG, they hold firm and they punish in over-aggressive IG.
And you can see how scared IG were at letting Uzi free fire, even in that fight. Beishang goes straight down onto the Aphelios to try and stop Uzi buying some space. Luckily for IG, it is a fairly successful fighting retreat. They do lose a kill though, they lose themselves that dragon. What should have been a pretty disastrous play if they committed to that fight just ends up being a significant loss as opposed to like a head in hands, what did we just do moment.
Yeah, it's a small little moment there, but let's have a look at the replay again, because Jiejie just kind of walks forward. IG don't really respect the fact that he could just, again, just throw everything at him.
You don't have the Gangplank ult, that would have helped in this kind of situation. You can see that Wink and Beishang, their entire jobs is, let's just stop this Aphelios doing damage to our own carries. But at this point, the Annie has used most of their cooldowns. You don't have Zeri in a great position to damage FoFo either. IG, I feel like this is just a little bit bold when you don't have that global to help you.
Don't have the global, and just got a back off cooldown right at the end of that fight there. And like I said, the good movement here from the EDG kind of solo laner and jungle combination meant that they were able to get so much value out of that. And again, it's a Aftershock Sejuani, so that first kind of setup of all those resistances is significant enough to make you kind of think twice whether or not you're going to be able to burst this particular carry down. Already has the Radiant Virtue as well, dropping down some more resources. We've seen this song and dance before. It is going into the AD carry, and you're pretty much guaranteed to go into them every single time you pick up that particular objective. And again, just more and more time, more and more pressure coming in here for the side of EDG. It is still a little bit behind, though, because Gangplank's in the game and he has a false economy.
True,
but
he actually prints money, yep.
Yep, no one's stopping him. It's not the treasury, the mint, nobody is absolutely stopping him from printing money. But, again, Gangplank's only as powerful as one barrel. If he doesn't hit that barrel, it's kind of like the Draven. Draven's amazingly dangerous if he has a massive amount of stacks to cash. But if he never cashes them, it's not that big of a deal. So, we'll see what they end up kind of going for right now. We are going to see Jiejie looking for another blue buff steal. He's done this on multiple occasions here this game, and this time around, though, it might be a little bit more difficult to make this one stick. I will say, though, the EDG bot lane have got all their summoners back as soon as that flashes up for Uzi in a couple of seconds. So right now, it's going to be difficult for them to really try and stop anything here. And they might look for a full fight. Yeah, he is alone, but that's going to immediately see a TP coming in here from the Fiora. Oh, sorry, not the Fiora. It's going to be FoFo, excuse me. Just making sure he can cover his AD carry. So Uzi not respecting the damage that could potentially come out, or at least the CC, and ends up burning his mid laner's TP.
Well, I actually think that's a bit of an overstep from FoFo. I mean, the Gale Force got him out to safely, saw him around that corner of the wall. I think Wink would have had to overcommit at that point. Uzi, it did look like he was alone, but uses that first item well enough. He's going to get himself that first turret. They do end up blowing that teleport, of course, a little bit awkward, but however, FoFo being the mid laner, he can just shove and roam anyway. Been doing a good job of getting there first to the play. And that's actually been a problem on the other side from IG. Yes, you do have a lot of scaling members, but you don't really want to give EDG all of these free wins. Losing that first Bot lane turret, little bit awkward. IG, however, as you said, actually doing very well in the farm department, doing well in their laning phase, even Beishang as well, building up to their first item. You have Leandries coming in from Cryin as well, which will of course help him deal with that front line. I'm a little bit worried compositionally for EDG now that we start mentioning that as well, because you look at the Essence Reaver coming in from Gwen. If you outrange or you're against a lot of melees as the Gangplank, going towards like the higher crit, crazy burst damage on the Gangplank can really help you land that one critical barrel. When you also have extra damage coming in from your Maokai, from that Annie as well, EDG, if they funnel in and they don't play their range as well, and you have these 3 melees on the top side of the map going too deep, that could be a big issue later into the game.
Keep an eye on it for the moment. It is still EDG making the slightly more proactive plays, but IG keeping step to him, and it's been very, very tempered so far. 1 kill in 16 minutes is not exactly a high-tempo game of action and debauchery, but you see now EDG looking to maybe contest IG around this Baron, or Baron Pit, where the Rift Herald is housed, but without the Fiora, I just don't think you can do this. 5v4, you just got to let this one go. This is just a better macro rotation coming out here from IG.
EDG just going on the Herald Safari. If you look out to your windows to the left, you'll see the Herald being taken by IG. They're not going to do anything about it. They don't have, as you said, the right positioning for it. And I think you're right in mentioning that Fiora wasn't at the fight, and that is something which they need to be aware of. EDG would love to get a kill onto Ala at some point. Make sure he can open up one of these side lanes. Taking that bot lane out of turret gives Ala a long lane to start chasing down some people. Of course, you don't have the Ghost on Fiora. That's something that we saw Zeus play a little bit on T1. It's going to be the Flash instead to jump over a barrel, jump over a crucial skill shot or the like. But EDG will really want Fiora to become a side lane threat sooner rather than later.
See what ends up happening at the end of it all, but have a look at the couple of item completions coming out here for both these teams. You have got the Ardent Sensor Rush still coming in for Meiko. We are on 13.11, but moving that.
He knows his job.
Yeah, he knows his job. He knows what he's going to be going on to. It doesn't matter that it's been slightly nerfed. I actually argue it's probably been slightly buffed in the early game, slightly nerfed in the late game, just the way it's been moved from a 15 to 30% depending on the level of the person you give it to. Now it's down to a flat 20, so you get 20% straight away. Now On getting jumped on here, but should be able to skate himself right back over the wall. Does exactly that. FoFo just covering himself very, very nicely. Beishang gets hit by the Glacial Prison, but not going to lead to anything else. This is just a lot of posturing. No one really fully committing right now. And with Dragon up and you've lost that Glacial Fish, that's a pretty big pick tool no longer available to EDG.
And again, IG very happy to sit here and say, okay, we still have the Cannon Barrage, we can play around that, and now they commit to the fight.
Here we go, the Moonlight Vigil is decent. A flash away as the lightning crash comes down. They're going to try to jump everything onto Uzi, who's kiting this fight out very well. Still has flash. Maybe he wants to try and go for it. There is the cannon barrage that you mentioned. There's so many low health bars right now, and they found their man. The president has been taken out, and his cat as well. There's going to be FoFo trying to turn this back in a fight as Ola finds himself a kill onto the Zeri. Gets himself a little bit of a healing from the Grand Challenge. Now Beishang coming in so low, but keeps himself alive. Nicely done there by IG. It ends up being a 3-for-2 trade in favor of Invictus Gaming.
You can change the players on the roster, but IG are such a team-fighting menace. They were in spring, they changed out some members for summer, they are still the same. And IG, they find themselves a very important victory. This is going to get themselves a dragon. It's going to get themselves to the point where they can maybe stall out a little bit more, even if EDG want to play around a sole win condition later into the game. The fight is very back and forth in itself, though. Looking back at this, you do have a great Moonlight Vigil coming in from Uzi to chunk down these HP bars. Gets out of the way of a potential Nautilus hook because he hides behind the terrain, still in DPS range. It's good positioning from Uzi at the start of it until the Cannon Barrage comes in. That's when the positioning becomes a little bit suspect. The rest of his team can't hold that choke point, allow him to stand behind that terrain. He goes down, IG run over the fight.
Was close until it wasn't. So many low health bars there. You can see that Wen coming in at the end, though, was enough to kind of turn it back in the favor of IG, and this is what we were talking about. This is where we're saying that EDG, their problems from the regular split so far haven't been in the bot side. It hasn't been around, where the bot lane has been getting its resources or where it's been going. It's been around the shot calling. It's been around the team fights that just haven't been going their way. Yes, they have been going up against monstrous opposition so far, but IG may have found themselves an opportunity here. 1,500 gold in the lead, and Wen, I'm going to be real, Wen on this Gangplank looks fairly decent and also very scary. Already got the Collector.
He's looking legit, and one of the things about the Collector between spring and summer in the not quite preseason patch, Collector now has 18 lethality on it, huge amounts of stats. He's going to be a threat in his own right, and now they're taking the mid lane out of turret.
taking mid lane, surely. And look to maybe get another push, and that is exactly what she will do. So third and a half of the, or more than half, honestly, about 2/3 of the damage putting down onto that turret in the mid lane. And tier 2 is very significant right now. We will have the Fiora kind of just pushing on the bottom side. It's exactly where you want to see that Fiora, as Beishong is going to walk forward and just make sure he can secure his own blue. First one he's gotten in a very long time, it feels like. Of course, we have got the residual blues and reds now on the Rift, so jungler will always get their buff if their teammates even take it from them. And it means that the mid laner Cryin can get one as well, so it's a win-win.
Everyone's Ivern now. You see that skin? That's actually not like
and that's why he's
tree.
Not allowed in the
that's
game.
Actually, yeah.
Him and Rel have broken it too much.
Yeah. Sure, I'm really looking forward to seeing Rel Jungle coming back, or rather not coming back.
I was going to say, when was it in?
General. Yeah, but it's being onto the Rift because it's such a fun champion. It's kind of this weird hyper gag style, which actually has significant damage. Anyway, when that comes to be, I'm going to really enjoy talking about that. I had a lot of players and a lot of pros enjoying playing that in solo queue. EDG starting to enjoy this game on the Rift, though, a little bit less. They're starting to keep that gold again. Fairly even. The side lanes are starting to open up, but they're still going to have to come down to this big question of how the heck do you play against these team fights against so many scaling ranged carries. That Gangplank is in a very good spot, hasn't been shut down early, walks away 2-0 and 1 away from that early fight, and is starting to get up to multiple items, as you highlighted already. EDG, they can't just throw out a Sejuani ult and hope for the best. They need to find themselves significant side lane or flank options to make sure this IG composition Look, do you think they see that brush? That's like, you go to the opticians and they say, does this pink one help you see better, or does this one? Option 1,
yeah,
option 2,
number 1,
3.
number 2, or number 3. And guess what? All 3 just got swept there. So that was that was 90 gold, if not
like
more.
You've got like on with like the Zeri W doing like laser eye surgery as well. I think that's a little bit more high power than they want. That's probably burning out your eyes at that point, but I appreciate the attempt.
I mean, look, they went in for an eye test, they got laser eye surgery. That's just how it is.
They actually just got laser eyes. They just fire lasers now.
They're Cyclops from the X-Men. That's just it's just the mutant variants coming in. But despite the wards not going the way of IG, this game is still in their favor. It's 3-3, a dragon apiece. Next dragon in a minute's time. Baron on the Rift. We're starting to see 2 items for the AD carries. I'm starting to get very worried about who can actually deal with when, because even though, yes, Ala on this Fiora is doing exceptionally well, those Gangplank barrels are doing 1,000 damage to minions, and that is when this game starts to get very difficult for anyone to really try and just pressure a side lane. He can be at a fight, as we've mentioned so many times, without being at a fight.
For sure, and when he does eventually arrive there, again, have to keep mentioning, 3 melees on the top side for EDG. Great the early game. Wen has himself the cleanse.
He has the cleanse and the flash, and they're going to try and fully commit onto this one here, but it's a 4v3. There's Jiejie flashing over the wall. FoFo in a little bit of trouble as well. They've got Uzi and Meiko trying to come in off the back side of this one here, but there's damage already being put down. The lightning crash from On forces Jiejie away. You can see them maybe going over the wall. Whoa! On looking to try and put down some work, but he's got a little bit too far forward, and Uzi says, "You cannot step to me." That's going to be a kill going over there as On gets a little bit too antsy just before this dragon fight. Oh, Uzi.
He's probably going
to have to
flash.
Away. He's going to have to flash. He's holding it. He's holding it. He's holding it because he's got so much damage. That is nerves of steel from Uzi right there, knowing exactly what he can and can't do, knowing that he didn't have to flash, and everyone from IG just had to scamper away.
That is just such a certified Uzi moment. I'm sure we'll see a couple of them in the games to come, but Uzi, I was thinking, he's surely got to flash away. The teleport might come in from EDG, but he finds the way for the Dragon to body block the CC that would come in and gets to find an important turnaround. IG, they kind of fluff the execution on that fight. They don't quite get the Gangplank ult in the right position. And what that means is that EDG get themselves another dragon on the board. They get to push in across the map again, and you get to remove a lot of important summoners away from IG, importantly too. On, no defensive summoners. Beishang, no flashy. The only flash that IG have is on Wink, and that leaves them in a much better position to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. When you don't have ways of getting away from the Cassante and the Sejuani, we're going to see them maybe going for a little bit too much on this tower. Facial Prison comes out onto Beishong, and a fair bit of damage on the backside of that green and white combination. I know it's your favorite, Nymaera.
I love those turrets.
You do love yourself a green and white combination.
to. It's I think it's just so underrated. Everyone talks about red-white, but the extended range of those turrets. You know, okay, you've actually just baited me into talking about this. Anyway,
Yep,
good combo. Watch those colors. Also, looks really pretty on the EDG skin as well. Throwing that one out there. They have both skins on that bot lane. Aesthetic choices as well. This was slightly less aesthetic a start to the fight from EDG because you're throwing your CC onto the target with the cleanse. Yes, you get rid of that flash, and you're walking straight into the barrels and straight into that ultimate. It's a very dangerous situation. The Gangplank ultimate probably should have been focused a little bit further back. Feels like it didn't get huge value out of it. And look, not gonna lie to you folks, I appreciate the boldness. There's a difference between boldness and insanity. Arn throws his life away. Even if you kill the enemy jungler there, you are going to die. That's not worth.
I mean, the fact that he uses the dragon to kind of say, you can't hook me. The whole thing is that Wink would need to flash there to try and get the hook off him. So really smart play there from EDG, recognizing, or not even just EDG, just from Uzi, recognizing, look, I got the cat on my back. I'm feeling fine. However, the game does go on. It is only 2 dragons to 1 here for EDG. They are pretty much dead even in terms of gold. We're going to see FoFo go all out onto Wink, who used that flash that you mentioned earlier on. He gets caught out. There's not really any kind of point-and-click CC to stop Uzi from just mowing down people in this game. On could have been, you know, a massive play in that last bot side kind of skirmish, but went a little bit too hypey. And this is the thing: the difference between int and god is a fine line to tread.
That it is. Throwing out the Meiko, looking for another engage.
Looking
holds it.
Yeah, they're going to look for it. They're going to go top down the Tibbers as well. They're going to see if they can get a good barrel on, but Uzi will not be caught out just yet. They do catch out one, so it's the Cassante for none. And IG, they're trading back a huge amount of their health bars right now. They haven't lost anybody, which is important, but it would be difficult for them to turn this into any kind of real objective because, again, look at the health bars on EDG. They lost one, but they kept themselves so healthy.
LPL in summer has very much been around these mid-lane fights past the 20-minute mark. You try and kill the jungler or the AD carry or both, and that will unlock the Baron. And the IG, they don't quite manage to do that. You get why they're doing it. It's the right point in the game to look for a fight, but the Baron is still available, and with EDG still having their Aphelios and Yuumi at fairly high health with a lot of damage to bring to bear, IG can't walk away with anything but that kill. Of course, this comes in from trying to combo up a couple of different soft engage tools. You didn't have a flash Nautilus ult, you didn't have a flash Tibbers or something like that. It's just the Maokai and the Gangplank ults to try and bring things to bear. Uzi just about gets out of that barrel. And even with that, you normally think the AD carry flashing away, he's kind of out of his damage range at that point. He does just enough to keep IG invested in the fight and take down some HP bars.
Yeah, probably people looking at that kind of saying, oh, why'd he flash? It was just a barrel. Nobody else kind of going for it. It's a barrel from a 3-item Gangplank. That barrel could have literally been 3/4 of his health bar, and that means he can't move forward. He can't be aggressive. So better safe than sorry from Uzi, as he does still have the Gale Force available to him and now has a Bloodthirster as well. So more healing, more sustain, more just self-preservation coming out here for the EDG puppy. And this is a much closer game one than I think a lot of people are anticipating. And again, it comes from the fact that IG have come in with a very solid game plan. I think Wen and Beishong as new additions to this team have looked fantastic so far. They seem to be working like a team that's been around for so long. Ala, not quite sure why you're moving up to that one, my friend, but he gets chunked out very significantly. He does have a TP, so should be able to kind of get himself back. But the only thing that was dropped with the Tibbers, and this late in the game, the Tibbers should be back fairly soon.
It's some first strike gold for Cryin, but that's about it. And now without that flash Tibbers available, some of that engaged threat is gone again. EDG are returning once again to this mid lane out of turret. They'd love to get that down. It would give them so many more options to play around the map. Wen is now going to get teleported on into the side lane. Has flash again, has barrels, of course.
He does have barrels, but it wasn't caught out just there. They're going to drop down the cannon barrage. Putting a fair bit of damage here on the Jiejie. Should go down with the grand challenge. Flash for flash, but a shutdown goes over to Ala. TPing in to make sure he gets that kill, and that means the EDG will have control around this dragon side of the river. And that means they should be able to get themselves onto Soul Point. We will see a Hex Flash over the ball from Wink, but it's not going to lead to anything else.
That's an important kill. Shuts down Wen in the side lane, gets rid of that flash. Didn't want to blow the stopwatch. I think that's understandable. The stopwatch doesn't really save him there. Be very important in a key fight later on. But Ala now has 2 kills, able to have a bit of a free run at this bot lane turret, try and get some gold on that split push side lane win condition of his own. EDG have been really just running at this mid lane turret, trying to take this down. They're finally going to take it 29 minutes into the game. It has been a slow burner here, folks. I think EDG, they found some issues with trying to engage into all of this snarled up, disengaged kind of ultimate composition from IG with the cannon barrage, with the Maokai ultimate. It slowed down the game for them, but with them now building up a hull breaker onto Ala's Fiora and that mid lane outer turret being down, EDG might be able to play around side lanes a little more now.
Yeah, well, Uzi already sticking up to not even 10 CS per minute. We're going to go with 11 CS per minute. Already kind of keeping himself nice and healthy as Jiejie does have to get himself away from this, but I don't think he can. It's going to be very difficult, and yeah, burnt down, but ooh, that's a lot of damage from the Infernum Moonlight Vigil. Do they want to try and risk this going back in on top of this one again? Uzi has knockoff flash, but he's got all the other combat summoners that are Yuumi and him grant to him. FoFo and Ala moving forward here, trying to just be as bit of a nuisance as they possibly can. Wynn doesn't have flash. Yeah, just hasn't got the flash, and the damage is not really there to try and turn this one back. Beishong not going to get away from this one just yet. They're going to try and jump in on top of Ala. Wynn goes in to try and see if he can stop Uzi, but he's just too big. He's got too much damage. And IG, they're falling apart right now. They just can't stand up to this tidal wave of damage that is available for the side of EDG. Nice little helter-skelter over the wall. Beishong getting chased down. Uzi wants the kill, but it will be going over to the side of EDG. Beishong almost getting himself out. And Uzi's feeling confident. He's feeling good. He's not really tested in these fights.
Oh, he's not. He's not even the first target. IG are trying to burn down the front line, and it's just not quite working. Un goes off at a side mission to take down the red buff halfway through that fight. Tries to get some regen, trying to get some lifesteal. It leaves IG in a very difficult spot when they don't have their damage in the right position. Jiejie's Arctic Assault over the wall pulls them into a different choke point than the one that IG would love to set up. It brings EDG's damage closer to the fight as well, and that is just an absurd amount of damage.
Yeah,
the Bloodthirster nowadays, it doesn't give you the overshield, but it does give you a lot of AD when you're at high health, and of course the Yuumi helps you in that regards as well. And at this point, you don't see it in picture right now, but look at the top right of your screen. Zeri just isn't there. Damage too much. Trying to get some regen off of the red buff to claim that one. You can see the red buff regen going after. But that means that Arn isn't there to turn the tables in terms of DPS. And EDG finally get themselves a fight into this very annoying composition to play into of IG.
3-1-3 has got the Last Whisper as well, so he's going to even do more damage to some of the tankier members, if you could even call them that, on the side of IG. And now with the Baron taken, it's gone to a 3,000 gold lead. IG just can't really find themselves an opportunity. They need to kill the Aphelios. That's the thing. It has to be Uzi, and if it's not, then it's just not good enough. Here we go. They're going to throw in a Q, but it's hopeful at best. The Cannon Barrage comes down while it's happening. Ala on a side lane here with the Hull Breaker, doing so much to try and just keep the pressure in. That's a huge amount of minions. They're going to lose both these towers if they're not careful. They need to clear one and the other.
Exactly. EDG, they are playing towards this side lane win condition now, and you can tell IG are getting a little desperate, and now they don't have the Cannon Barrage. What can they do? They're losing on both lanes.
They're losing on both lanes. We're going to see two towers go down. They're going to finally look to try and see if they can get a fight. FoFo using that Gargoyle Stoneplate to keep himself healthy. Uzi comes in, and Uzi spreads out the damage. They're trying to see if On can get on top of him. He flashes away, and finally gets taken out, but is it all for naught, because Beishong is only one left alive, and he's being chased down by a cat on a mission. The solo bolo, you could almost call it, from Meiko on the cat, and that's going to be game number one going over to EDG.
That's about as close to a Yuumi solo kill you will see in professional play. Is he a cat? Is he a tiger? Predator on that one. Takes down that kill, takes down the Nexus.
And again, it took a while. It was definitely not a quick, dominating win here from EDG, but once the gears started to shift, once Uzi started to get a couple